So, we are continuing our study on the pamphlet A Word to the Little Flock. This came out in 1846 to 1847. And we're studying what James White studied and believed at this time, and it included the voice of God and the time of trouble. And now we're talking about the time of Jacob's trouble. So I'm going to read. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Jeremiah 30, verse 7. By comparing Genesis 32 with Jeremiah 30, verse 7, and the prophecy of Obadiah, we may see that Jacob represents believers and Esau represents unbelievers. I doubt not, but these two characters will be brought out and clearly seen in the closing strife with the image beast, which is just before us. See Revelation 13, verses 11 through 18. Jacob's trouble was when the messengers returning to him said, "We came to thy brother Esau, and also he comes to meet you with 400 men with him." Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. Genesis 32, verses 6 and 7. The true saints will be brought into a similar situation at the time of fulfillment of Revelation 13, verses 11 through 18. So let's read Revelation 13, starting in verse 11, and this is where the prophecy involving the role of the United States begins. Verse 11, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed." The deadly wound healed, that was the beast representing the papal power. Verse 13, "And he does great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceives them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast," that's the first beast, the papal beast, "saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast," that's the first beast, papal beast, "which had the wound by the sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed." So there's a law here that's being that is causing people to worship the image of the beast, the first beast. "And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, so that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. In other words, 666. So, the image is, my understanding, the Sunday law, which is coming. We could see that. And it's on the horizon. And with that law will come also laws about who can buy or sell. And only those who have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, or who worship the image of the beast, will be able to buy and sell. So once again, we're studying the time of Jacob's trouble. So we turn from page 9 to page 10 of A Word to the Little Flock. Reading again from our study by James White. "Not that the saints will be killed, for then none would remain tell the change, but to fulfill this prophecy, a decree must go forth to kill the saints, which will cause fear and distress. When Jacob was troubled, he wrestled with the angels until the breaking of the day. Genesis 32, verse 34. In the last closing strife with the image beast, when a decree goes forth that as many as will not worship the image of the beast shall be killed, the saints will cry day and night and be delivered by the voice of God. Then the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken it. Obadiah 18th verse. I have not been able to see anything in our past and present history which answers to Jacob's trouble and the day and night cry of the elect. Luke 17 verse 7. I have been astonished at some of our brethren, while they have urged us to go about the work of crying day and night for deliverance. Not long since, I was in a meeting where the sentiment prevailed that if all would then go about the work, they might pray Christ down to the earth in 24 hours. It is clear that when the time comes for this cry, that the elect will have the spirit of prayer poured upon them, and I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplication, etc. And the land shall mourn, every family apart, the family of the house of David apart, and their wives apart. See Zechariah 12, verse 14, and Ezekiel 7, verses 15 through 16. When Jesus has finished his work in the heavenly sanctuary and comes out upon the great white cloud with his sharp sickle, then will be the time for the day and night cry, which is represented by the angels crying to Jesus to thrust in his sharp sickle and reap. Revelation 14, verses 14 and 15. The desire and prayer of every pure soul is, Thy kingdom come, but the special morning praying time of the saints is evidently yet to come. So he wrote this in 1846 or around that time. So, and it's calling attention to the heavenly sanctuary, which would the work that Jesus is doing there. It calls attention to when he comes out of the most holy place and has a sharp sickle and is ready to reap. And this is actually on the 1843 and 1844 chart. It's interesting to look at that, but I don't have that chart in front of me at the present time to show you. And so the next study will be Thoughts on Revelation 14. Actually, we might have time now to read it, so let's go ahead. Thoughts on Revelation 14, the 13th chapter of Revelation and the first 5 verses of the 14th, is one connected chain of past, present, and future events, down to the complete redemption of the 144,000. Then the 6th verse commences another chain of events which carry us down through the history of God's people in this mortal state. John had a view of the beast in his image, as recorded in chapter 13, and how natural it would be for him to view on a little further and see the 144,000 who had gotten the victory over the beast and over his image, standing on Mount Zion with the Lamb, etc., as recorded in chapter 14, verses 1 through 5. So I think the division should be between the 5th and 6th verses of the 14th chapter, and the 6th verse commences a series of events relative to the successive messages of Holy Advent truth. All classes of Second Advent believers agree that the angel brought to view in the 6th and the 4th verses of this chapter represents the Advent message to the church and world. If this is true, then all 5 of the angels brought to view in this chapter represent 5 distinct messages prior to the Advent, or we are left without a rule to interpret this chapter. The work of the second angel was to show to the Advent host that Babylon had fallen, and as a large portion of them did not learn this fact until the power of the midnight cry waked them up, just in time for them to make their escape from the churches before the 10th day came on, it follows that the second angel brought us to the 7th month, 1844. The third angel's message was and still is a warning to the saints to hold fast and not go back and receive the marks which the virgin band got rid of during the second angel's cry. And has not the true message for God's people since the 7th month, 1844, been just such a warning? It certainly has. I cannot agree with those who make 2 messages of the cry, Babylon the Great is fallen, with the voice, come out of her, my people. For every sermon that was printed or preached on this subject contained them both in one message. The 12th verse reads, Here is the patience of the saints, here are they that keep the commandments of God, etc. Where did you see them, John? Why, here, during this third angel. As the present waiting time has been since the 7th month, 1844, and as the class that keep the Sabbath, etc., have appeared since that time, it is plain that we live in the time of the third angel's message. The last 2 angels are messages of prayer. We shall no doubt better understand them at the time of their fulfillment. James White. So we see here that at the time of this publication, which was in 1846 and 1847, James White was indicating he was very much believed that since October 22, 1844, we were in the time of the third angel's message.